When it comes to Souls-like games made by FromSoft, there's always a group of people asking for an easy mode or a difficulty slider because they find the games to be too hard, and of course many people disagree with them and they often get clowned on. Rightfully so too, because what they fail to realize is that there is always a way to make the game easy. Obviously one of these many ways in Elden Ring is using sleep arrows, or more specifically Trina's arrows. Now, from my own experience, I am entirely convinced that these arrows are one of the strongest items in Elden Ring that we know of. Now, when I say strong, I don't mean that it does a lot of damage. I'm mainly talking about utility. These arrows are absolutely busted when it comes to trying to clear an area, farming enemies, or even killing bosses. Now, when we first saw sleep arrows in like one of the gameplay trailers, I knew immediately that they would be strong because, you know, it's a sleep arrow, but I never expected them to be this strong. Never in my entire life did I think you'd be able to put any boss to sleep. So today, I'm going to show you all the true potential of sleep arrows and how strong they really are. Before we get into it, if you do enjoy this video at any time, please do consider subscribing, because most of the people who watch my videos are in fact not subscribed. If you like Elden Ring, Souls games, or just me in general, well, why not subscribe and help a small channel out? With all that being said, let's move on to the Bill Cosby build. Now normally you would think an item as strong as this one would be accessible later on in the game, you know, probably near end game. However, in Elden Ring that is not the case. If Limgrave is the same in the final version as it is in the network test, you can buy a cheap Walmart brand bow pretty early on in the game from Santa Claus. The short bow is only 300 runes, so it's affordable. Now you're probably thinking, well, if Trina's arrows are so strong, surely they're expensive. Wrong. You can buy as many Trina arrows as you want from some homeless guy under a bridge. This homeless man, who will become known as the sleep arrow guy, is quite literally just left of when you spawn in. You just have to like climb down a few rocks. He sells Trina arrows for quite the bargain, 60 runes per arrow. That is a lot cheaper than arrows in the previous game, by the way. In Dark Souls 3, special arrows like fire arrows are 100 souls, poison arrows 120 souls, moonlight arrows are 500 souls, dark arrows are like 200. I think you get the point. So not only can you get these arrows very early on, they're also extremely cheap. So if you're one of those people who really hate a challenge, well, there's an easy mode. You just gotta pay some runes to a homeless man. Now, if you don't want to spend that many runes for easy mode, there is another option. However, it is kind of worse in my opinion. If you didn't know, they added crafting into Elden Ring. You can actually just gather materials to make a sleep bomb. You can't make the arrows as far as I know, but if you go get this cookbook called Fever's Cookbook, you can gain the recipe to make these. Now, I personally think these sleep bombs are much worse than the sleep arrows. They're much slower than Trina arrows, and you know, you gotta craft them. I just realized I've been calling them sleep bombs. They're actually sleep pots. But anyways, you unfortunately can't just find like a pine cone and some leaves, put them together and make a sleep pot. To make a sleep pot, you need mushrooms, Trina lilies, and on top of that, crackpots, which I think you can only buy. Now, with more common materials like mushrooms, you actually can just sit at the bonfire, go back up, pick them up again, sit back down, they respawn over and over, but that's not the case with Trina lilies. All materials have a certain spawn point on the map, but Trina lilies, obviously, they don't respawn. Or at least I couldn't get one to. Maybe it's on a timer, not sure. At least they're always in the same spot, I guess. Overall, sleep pots do the same thing, just much slower and worse. But the only thing you'll need to spend runes on are crackpots, unless they add a way to get them without buying them. Now that I went over how easy they are to get, let's talk about why they're so busted. Now, I don't think I need to say this, but just in case, obviously sleep arrows don't work on everything. In fact, later on in this video, I'm going to talk about what bosses they work on and what bosses they don't work on. But there are a lot of enemies and bosses that they do work on, and that's why they're so good. Now, there are a few enemies that actually don't completely fall asleep, but don't completely negate it either. This big ass knight that I assume is the leader of this camp is a good example. Now, even though this knight doesn't completely fall asleep, it's still good to use it on him. For enemies like this, it's still useful to shoot them with the sleep arrow, because they get put in an animation where they're like holding their head, "No mom, I don't want to go to sleep," and then you know, you could just go behind them, backstab them, get that big damage. Now, when there's no enemies that negate or resist, you know, it's a fucking bloodbath. Even shields don't protect them. I don't know if that's a bug or not, but you can quite literally shoot the arrow at their shield and they will still fall asleep. Now when you put an enemy to sleep, it's basically giving you a free kill. You could critical hit them, you could just hit them normally, or you could just walk away. Just from watching my gameplay right now, you can tell already why they are so good. It's literally easy mode. I can only imagine if there's a spell that puts people to sleep. Like, oh my god, that'd be broken. So yeah, for those who find the game too hard and you know, you have trouble clearing areas or there's just like too many enemies for you to handle, this item right here, this for you. I better not see a damn article talking about why Elden Ring is too damn hard, because this exists. I'm talking to you, game journalists. When you wield the sleep arrows for too long, you know, you can't contain all that power, you will start ascending, and eventually you will come... Wait, I meant meet your doom, but for some reason I said come, you know, just forget it. Anyways, Trina arrows are extremely good for farming as well. You can put trolls to sleep and you need to kill them in order to get smithing shards, which are used to upgrade your weapons. Also, I don't think I mentioned this already, but you can actually just keep putting them to sleep over and over. It's not like a one-time thing. There's no build-up. You just shoot them again, and then, you know, it happens. Or at least it doesn't look like there's a build-up, and if there is, it must be pretty damn fast. So like for these trolls, they can't really do anything. They're forever stuck in the animation of waking up and going to sleep if you just keep hitting them with it. Now normally for a regular enemy with a short animation, the moment you hit them they wake up, but for enemies with extremely long sleep animations, you can actually hit them while the animation is playing and get a bunch of free damage. And the moment they start waking up again, you just hit them with another arrow and, you know, they're out cold again. Enemies like this, you can quite literally beat them without getting hit at all. If FromSoft does plan to nerf Trina arrows, then a good idea might be, you know, making it take longer till you could put them back to sleep again, instead of, you know, putting these poor bastards into a coma. Now let's move on to the next major part about why these arrows are so damn strong. Being able to put bosses to sleep is really just a cherry on top. The only thing stopping Trina arrows from becoming a weapon of Armageddon is the fact that it doesn't work on all bosses. Sleep arrows work on about a little over half of the bosses in the network test, I believe. That does include when they kind of get stunned and they put their hand on their head. No mom, I don't care if it's a school night. You know what I'm talking about? There are actually only a few bosses that completely negate it. Anyways, I'm going to be going over which bosses they do work on and which bosses they don't work on. From my experience, they've worked on every single beast type enemy, I believe. You know, like these little rat guys. They work on Beastman of Faram Azula, if that's how you say it. They also work on Demi-Human Chief. I'm just gonna call them the Twin Chiefs. I'm not exactly sure what the deciding factor is to, you know, decide whether they fall asleep or not. I know it's not just having bare skin though, because, you know, it works on some nights. I also know the deciding factor is not if they're humanoid or not, because you could put animals to sleep like crabs and goats. If you have any idea if there even is a deciding factor, go ahead and comment that down below, because I would love to hear some of your thoughts. Aside from all that, another boss you can put to sleep is Pumpkinhead, and this makes the fight extremely easy. In fact, I one-shotted him here. As you might have guessed, you can also put this stone troll to sleep, just like the other trolls. Of course, this does let you get a visceral attack in, however, I just, you know, blew this man up with like 10 trillion meteors. Next up is Grave Warden, who doesn't fall asleep, but he does get stunned, so, you know, you could get a free backstab from that. Pretty useful still. He does, however, take a lot more arrows to get this stun effect off. I don't know why, but I mean, that's just how it is. Last but not least, for bosses you can put to sleep or stun, we have this Blood Knight. I don't know how to say his name. Darrowil? No fucking clue. He can be quite hard to hit since he's so fast, but you know, if you do hit him, he gets stunned for a little bit, that's free damage. All the bosses I have not mentioned are completely immune to sleep arrows. Those bosses are Agheel the Dragon, Burial Tree Watchdog, and Margit. One thing I noticed that I thought was interesting is that any boss or enemy that has skin made of stone or is just completely made of stone is just immune to the sleep arrows. I mean, it does make sense, so you can expect any future boss that comes out made of stone or looks like it's made of stone, you know, you probably can't put them to sleep. At the end of the day, I think we can all agree that sleep arrows are straight brokey. These are fucking busted. Elden Ring does have an easy mode, it's just not in the options menu. Anyways, if you did make it this far, you're awesome. Thanks for watching. If you did enjoy, please drop a like, helps out the channel. If you're new, definitely subscribe. Like I said, small channel, I could use your help. And yeah, I'm out of here.